Both his sons, having played sport at a local level in Leeds, Andy and Fast Signs have a long history of helping local sports clubs and organisations like Kippax Welfare Rugby League, Garforth Rangers Football Club and North Leeds Cricket Club with products such as events banners, honours boards and changing room signage, as well as providing signs and graphics to the mighty Leeds Rhinos and Leeds United for over the last 30 years. So if you're involved in a local sports club, get in touch with Andy and his team for advice and help with your signs. Hi everybody, welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kind of sponsored by Fast Signs. We're here today for a very special Lot Pod special with Mark Butterill from the Leeds Rhinos. Here is mine and Duncan's chat with Mark. Enjoy. Well, Mark, how are you? We're chuffed to have you on with us.
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Firstly, 10 years with the mighty Rhinos.
Yeah.
How quickly has that gone, first of all? And how can you sum up your 10 years?
It's gone really quickly, to be fair. It doesn't seem like 2 minutes. I came on board as a scholarship assistant. I moved from Featherstone, came on board with a scholarship under Rob Butterill. And Carl Ablett back in the day. And obviously things have kind of progressed during that time. But it's been great. It's everything that I kind of imagined from, a big club, being a Leeds Rhinos fan myself and being a community coach. It's kind of the stuff I dreamed, really, to be fair. So
yeah, perfect.
What first drew you into coaching then, and did you always envision your path being in youth pathways?
From a coaching perspective, I was always fascinated with it, but I'd kind of played in the community game, played for Bramley, the old Bramley, played for the new reformed Bramley, and then did a little bit of assistant coaching with Paul Cook back in 2008 maybe. And then it was just a bit of a natural progression. I got the bug for it, and then obviously as your playing career kind of subsides, then the coaching side of it kind of comes to the forefront. And I just thought to myself, I like this side of it. It was a natural progression for me, and it kept me in the game. Ultimately, there were no kind of ulterior motive to be a head coach, but I thought that it was just a steady progression. But I thought if I kind of studied it and worked out at it, there might be other opportunities further down the line for me.
Progresses.
So yeah. So just from there, I went to, obviously, Paul left and I coached at Bramley, and then went to Featherstone under Daryl Powell and John Bastian at the time, and then got the call from the Rhinos, and jumped at it, really, to be fair.
How have those different environments that you've mentioned there kind of changed and shaped your approach to coaching? Have you seen a big difference between your time at Bramley to as you've made your way up?
Yeah,
and
massively.
through?
And I think the demographic of the player that you work with as well needs to be taken into consideration. The players that I had at Bramley were different to the 8 lads that Darryl gave me in the under-16s at Featherstone. There you go, do your best, try and get a squad together. So you kind of, the pool of player that you're after is kind of the one that's always been cherry-picked by Leeds, Wigan, St Helens, and then Wakefield and Huddersfield, etc. come in and do their bit, and then before you know it, right, there's 5 or 6 players that nobody wants. So try and mould them into players, and we did that because a lot of players have gone on to have good championship careers. So that's a bit of a fillip and a bit of an highlight for me as well.
Oh, without a doubt.
Was there a key turning point when you decided to commit to development pathways rather than pursuing, as you mentioned, assistant coaching or maybe even head coaching?
No, there were no. I think it was just a call from from Simon in relation to we'd be interested in you coming on board to help Rob with the scholarship. I think primarily before then it was always open age coaching, so I kind of always coached adults, which is at them levels a lot easier. I mean, it's you don't have to break everything down. You kind of just at Bramley you just got on with it. If they dropped a few balls, you just kind of you went through some little bits, but not in the detail that you have to do with a young kid. When you're developing a player. So it was different, really, to be fair. So it was never, again, there was never no directive for me to do that. It was just more of a natural progression, I think, again.
Current players and coaches you'll be someone that they will name as part of their development and their mentor, but who were some people that mentored you and influenced you throughout your career?
Paul Cook had an influence. Obviously, he played at the highest level and he had some really good attributes. John Bastian, again, a good friend of mine. John had an influence in relation to how I coached the youth. I think to not tap into his experience is kind of would be naive. Yeah. There were various coaches, really. To be fair, Brian Mack. When I first came in, Brian Mack were head coach, and I got on great with Mac, and he was a good bloke, and we always had chats, and then you progress from Dave Ferner had some bits in him. Richard Agar was really good with me. He spent a lot of time and a lot of energy with me. I learnt a lot under him, and again Rowan had some bits in there, and obviously Brad's got his his traits, his strengths, what you can draw on. So it is, coaching is robbing ideas off everybody, isn't it, really, to be honest, and trying to put it into the players that you have at any given time. So I just think you're just kind of learning all the time. Yeah,
it's always dynamic, it's always changing.
Always evolving. As you well know, the game's changed from when Mac, the introduction of the block play in 2010 and the ruck stuff, the wrestle as well. So again, the game's kind of evolved a little bit. As we move forward, quite a lot, hasn't it, really?
And you've produced yourself, as Leeds have produced some Super League, Harry Newman, Tom Allroyd, Alex Sutcliffe, just for an example. How I think you, John Bastian, and Chev, all those people have the most satisfying job in the game. And I hope to God you get all the plaudits for it. And how satisfying is it for you, for Chev, for all those people underneath him that work alongside you, when a player does make their debut, when they kick on and they go to the highest level? You must be thrilled.
And I think I can speak for everybody that you've named there that it's a massive honour, it's a massive thrill, and you get so much satisfaction out of it. Prez making his debut this year, Zach on the fringes of it. It's absolutely massive, and ultimately that's what the bit that fills you with pride, that you've played a small part in that, and that again that kind of makes you want to move on and be hungry to develop the next one and the next one and the next one. So while Prez moves up, there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 underneath, and still we're going right. Let's get them. So it's kind of, sometimes coaches speak about it. They talk about the process. So the process of the kid moving from the 16s to the 18s into the first team, and then once that, you get satisfaction when he's done. But then once he's made his debut, you're kind of thinking of the next one, that's it. So you get 5 minutes maybe, and you're like, that's brilliant, that, and you'll have a chat with them before, after the games and stuff like that. But then it's like, who can we get in next? Who can we get in next?
There's the next group that we've got to nurture.
That's it, 100%.
And to pull through. There's nothing more, and I've said it on the podcast loads, I think Duncan and Chris agree, there's nothing I love more than watching an academy product make their debut. Yes. Like, I missed Presley's because I was away, and I was gutted about that.
Yep.
So you must be. Who is next in line? Could you give us a few names of?
There's a few, obviously. You know, like I just mentioned, Zach's in and around it. You know, young Joe Diskin, etc. Oscar Brown, I should imagine. You know, there's a few, if they get the development right in this pre-season block under Brad and under Chev and Scott and Langers, then you know they should be knocking on the door. Yeah, it should be. It's a great environment at this moment in time. It's and you know, Brad gives the young guys. He's not shy to give the young guy an opportunity or put him into training sessions and being around that environment. You know, we're really lucky to have him.
We are, absolutely. We've sort of said recently that this, maybe last year or two, this crop that are coming through feel different from a fan's perspective, so we can all agree with that. Do you feel there is something kind of in these last 2 or 3 years where the quality's just improved? Is that fair to say, do you think?
Yeah, I think we've always had quality, but it's... I think it's, you know, I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I think the biggest influence that
is you.
No, it's not. It's the role that Chev's taken on, that Brad's given Chev.
Yeah,
we've missed that. So we've always had a little bit of, you know, we've pushed kids up into the academy, and for whatever reason, they've not progressed to the level that we expected him to. But Brad's kind of highlighted that. He's kind of tinkered with the model and brought some stuff for the NRL, and then he's made Chev that transitional coach. Now Chev gets loads of time and spends loads of time with the guys and develops them fantastically well. But I just think in the past sometimes we might have been a little bit guilty of, they were training with the first team, but what actually were they getting out of it? Now there's a purpose, there's a plan behind it, and like I say, Chev's doing a fantastic job. Obviously last week with the reserves, and obviously the 18s in the final tomorrow. So that transition coach that can spend a lot of time and effort with these players that are jumping between 18s and reserves and first team, makes a massive difference.
Do you find the reserves has helped more with that then? Because obviously that's just come in over the last couple of years, and we seem to have gone this year more to an approach of we're going to have a settled reserve side as well as and give the young kids probably more of an exposure to playing adult rugby instead of age group rugby.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Brad's not been a really overly keen, as you've seen, on dual registration. Yeah. Obviously, he likes to keep him in house and get the development right, which again has proved to be right. I think. I think with 18 football or reserve football, whatever you want to call it, it's never been the magic. It's never been the magic potion that everybody envisaged. Back in the day, they were still robbing people out of stands to play another, etc. But what I think we've got to do is give it time. We've got to give it time to build, time to be an elite competition. At this moment in time, some clubs are still backing their 18s into the reserves, and then you're kind of asking, what's an actual squad player, 23 to 35 getting out of this, because ultimately he's playing against 17-year-old kids. But I think the RFL have recognised this, and this talk about strengthening the reserve competition next year to be primarily the major competition that it needs to be. I still maintain that at this moment in time, clubs and mindsets are the 18s is probably more elite than reserves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So we need to flip the narrative on its head and make that the premier competition, and young players earn the right to be a part of that, and it needs to be part of their development. So that's the challenge for every club and obviously the RFL as well.
You were recently announced as moving into a new role, head of Pathways Talent ID, while Simon Brown takes over as head of scholarship coach. How did that restructure, how did that move sort of come about? Is that something that's been in the pipeline yourself and Leeds have been working on for a while, or? No,
it was again another soft conversation kind of with Ian. Ian kind of got me in the office and said, look, you know, a couple of things will be changing next year in relation to staff and who does what. Have a think about, I'd like you to do this job, I think you're the ideal man for it, and I'd like you to do it. So we kind of went through it, and the pathways, and identifying young players as well in the community game, and creating relationships with clubs from the ages of 12 right up until, well, whatever really, to be fair. Getting more contact time with them, making more informed decisions on players for scholarships rather than going out 12 months before and blindly recruiting kids. We know about we've had them in our systems, from 12. They've done the RTP type sessions and things, education sessions. So just being part of that. And at first I was a little bit sceptical because obviously coaching is my passion. Ian kind of balanced it by saying that I could still do my coaching at Beckett's, but still being around the coaching side of it from a Rhinos perspective. So it gave me the balance, really. To be fair, I didn't want to give up coaching, really. To be fair, I wanted to be, but I also wanted to make a difference behind the scenes. And I think at this moment in time we've got that balance. But obviously we'll see. For you're not judged on this kind of role while 3-4 years time. People are not going to bang the chest until 4 years time. They go, hang on a minute, we're not getting any kids through it yet. And that's when
the proof's really in the pudding.
Of course it is, 100%.
So when you're doing like your talent ID, how does it work? Do you have like scouts that obviously they'll have scouts that work beneath you? Are you going in on a Monday morning and sifting through a load of reports, or are you getting out to games as well, or just a mixture of both?
No, but getting out to games. So we have talent ID hub, which kind of here, there and everywhere. Castleford, Yorkshire, Hull, North Yorkshire, Rugby Union. So we kind of chat through the group or via Zoom. We identify which games we need to be looking at, players, etc. And I've just kind of created a bit of a central hub where everyone, or certain people, scouts, Ian, Chev, and everyone can see where we're at and the clubs that are producing players and things like that. So we've kept it all aligned now, which is a little bit different from how it's been in the past. Like I say, we've got a hub, and I think we've got about 12 scouts now. So again, probably only had 3 or 4 in the past. So we've kind of opened his network out a little bit, put some bodies out in Lancashire, Oldham and stuff like that, because historically we've always done that, and we've kind of just, for whatever reason, we just stopped doing that. So we've got a scout in Cumbria as well that does some bits and pieces for us, but it's more kind of tipping up, and then obviously we'd go out and we'd go watch. So it's building nicely. I think I've only been in the role 2 weeks, but I like to think that myself and Darren have done quite a bit of work in relation to changing kind of the dynamic of how we work, and getting more eyes on kids and having more contact time with players and young players and parents. So
And have the club given you the opportunity to kind of mould it into what you feel would work, and kind of said, here's the keys to this kind of new role?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because like I say, Ian just said, look, you're the man that I've identified. I put my trust in you to do this, and that's kind of gold dust, isn't it, really, to be fair? So yeah, I've got that, but obviously working alongside Darren and working with Chev and Simon and the other coaching, for me, it's not just about one bloke. It's a collective.
It's a real network
we all have a job to do, and we just need to make sure. My job is to make sure that everyone can, especially the coaches, can do their job to their best of their ability, and we'll try and as best to provide them with the best players.
So you mentioned you've also done work at Beckett Uni. What have you found different to that between coaching the players, say, when they come into the academy, they're probably more at an elite level? When you go into a uni environment, you maybe have more rough diamonds than you do, but you still can find players to bring into the Rhinos. Yeah. Or do you just treat that as a complete separate entity? No,
I think you're always, in the back of your mind, because of the partnership and the relationship with the Rhinos, you're always looking for that player. I think in the past, after COVID, when everybody got hit, it was easier to bring a uni player into a big club like Leeds Rhinos, because there was gaps there after COVID and stuff like that. So, but now we've got his house in order in relation to the quality that we've got in his 18s and reserves. It'd take a special talent to kind of pop up. You never say never. We did well last year. I think we got 11 players signed up part-time contracts with Super League and Championship clubs.
That's brilliant.
So again, that's
kudos to your work.
It's on the back of that. What it does is open doors for other players. So we're starting to see this year players from the northeast and the south wanting to come on board because they see a genuine pathway.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
At Leeds Rhinos, when we talk about the player pathway, it can be just as simple as you get signed up to scholarship, you go into academy reserves first team, but then there's a whole host of lads on the right hand side where they've got to go college, RTP, university, and then back into the pro game.
Different route.
Yeah, just a different room, and we need to highlight that it is possible, and we did that last year, so hopefully we can do that again this year, to be fair. But going back to your original question, it's a different demographic. Keep it as professional as I can, because for all the first team players and the young kids that want to come, their aspiration is to play professionally. So the first team is us, and then the second team again, it's a social element to their side of it, and there's a comfort there, and I think it is a good programme and a good environment, and the guys get on really well. Training this morning at 7:30, we had 50 lads there at 7:30. 50 lads there at 7:30. So again, it's good. So we train Monday, Tuesday night, play Wednesday, train Friday morning, and the reason behind Friday morning is just to give them a bit of flush out after a Wednesday game, draw line under the week, and then they can jump on the train or get in the car and go home for the weekend. So that's kind of it, to be fair. So at this moment in time, it's working. The uni backing us. obviously they signed another deal, 3-year deal with the RFL, which is
amazing,
and Rhinos. So that's fantastic news. So I'm hoping the plan is for one day to find a gun in there and go,
here he is.
Yeah, that's it. That's the plan.
Here's the next
fingers crossed. Yeah. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. I think you see too many of them, mate, to be fair.
Oh, we'll never see one of them again. No. Never, ever, ever. So when you are kind of looking for players, for talent, for kind of identifying these, what type of traits or qualities do you look for when you're sort of scouting, when you're looking ahead at a player?
Obviously, the non-negotiables about being an athlete and having a little bit of talent and being able to kind of move. Yeah, we look outside of the big kid, because again, if we've done his background checks on him, we can kind of get his, the age maturation side of it, and just making sure that we kind of sometimes look past the big kid that's scoring 5 tries, because ultimately sometimes 9 times out of 10 he's not going to get really any bigger, and everybody's going to catch up. Like I say, the skill, their attitude towards things. So if they're playing in a great side but they're behind on the scoreboard, how they deal with that, and how they talk to the teammates, how they react to the coach as well. And if I'm honest, I kind of look at the parents as well.
Really?
Sometimes, if the parents are kind of on the sideline effing and jeffing, then the apple don't fall too far from the tree, really, does it, to be fair. So again, but we'll watch them 3 or 4 times before we make a kind of informed decision. So yeah, that's it. But ultimately, good athletic base, being able to move. It doesn't matter if you're a big kid like Tom Holroyd was. He can get off the floor really quick, and he can move from A to B really quick, and so all that's got to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. So there's a lot around the character there. You mentioned the parents, you mentioned how they react with the teammates and the coach. So that's, as you say, that's absolutely massive.
Of course it is. The person's massive. I mean, obviously the All Blacks have a mantra of no dickheads.
Yeah.
And we have the same.
We'd have it on this pod. That's why we
have the same.
That's why we're on it.
But we're the same at Leeds. All right. There's a difference between being a dickhead and having an attitude and a bit of street, so to speak, about you. There's a difference there, and we'll encourage that, as long as it's not outside the boundaries of impacting other players and the sessions in the programme. So.
Yeah. Does that play a big part then, like you say, with attitude? Would you, if you had, say, a gun player but maybe their attitude isn't quite right, but you had maybe a player not as talented but bob on attitude, or is it just a mixture of, well, we think we can nurture this gun and get the attitude right? Would you take a punt maybe on both? Or?
Oh yeah. I think you'd always take a punt. You'd take a punt on them and have faith in your environment to kind of help and support them.
Yeah. Sometimes faith in them too.
When you think about it, some of them from experience, it's not always been their fault. Sometimes it's like, coaching demographic. You might get a couple of coaches that are always shouting and swearing at them. They might not come from the affluent background, so again they might have some challenges there. So I think it's just looking past that. But obviously if you get 12 months in or 6-12 months in and they're still being a little bit even though you've had discussions around it and you've tried to support then obviously
so you do like regular reviews with them then within the first year of them being on board with you?
We do a lot of one-on-ones, and we do a lot of we do individual development plans. So we set them targets, and then we bring them in 3-4 times a year with the parents, sit down and chat around how they're progressing. The good thing with the parents is obviously they're with them 24/7. So they kind of get a flavour of, if I might say, he's been a little bit tired, or he's been this, and his dad might go, well, he's been on his iPad since 2 o'clock every morning. So again, we get that kind of transparency, that honesty, and then when it comes to making decisions on players, whether we're going to offer them a contract, I don't think there's any hidden agendas there. I think
you've pulled the parents through with them, haven't you?
That's it. Kept them gone through the journey,
communicating, going through the journey together. So if it comes to wrong or right, there's no alarm, is there? There's 100%. No shock.
And teenagers are not great at opening up. I mean, my kids don't. It's like try to get blood from a stone, isn't it?
I asked my 8-year-old how at school. I don't know. What do you do at school?
It's all right.
I don't know. It's all right. Yeah.
So I've got 4 daughters, me, and it's it's a challenge at times, definitely. But so, you flip it on its head with a player, I can guarantee they don't really say out when they get in the car and they're driving home.
Another side of that is, has there been a player or two where they've perhaps developed or come into the academy or scholarship, wherever they are, maybe not as good as the rest, but then they've quickly developed and you've gone, wow, like they've just completely shone?
I wouldn't say like it's a surprise, but obviously Riley's a good one. So obviously Riley was just like 3 stone wet through, you know, and everyone's going, and I had a conversation with Darren Higgins, because obviously he was the head of youth at Castleford at the time that we signed Riley, and he was going, I kept watching and I just didn't see it. But again, maybe, it's a little bit of luck there. Maybe it was our programme that's supported him. We've got, from a strength and conditioning side, we've got some excellent people doing some great stuff with some real consistency, and maybe that's helped. Maybe our environment's helped in relation to being different to Cass. I can't really speak about other clubs, but maybe there was a bit of that. But again, credit to the talent IDs. Simon at the time just did see something in him. Playing on the wing and fullback, etc., and obviously he's grown and he's done all right.
Looks like a super
yeah, he's done all right.
Absolutely.
So looking back, what are you most proud of in your coaching career?
Good question.
Well, it's 2 parts. And then going forward, what would you like your impact to be on the Rhinos within the next 5 to 10 years?
Deep breath.
Yeah.
It's a big question.
I don't think there's one. Obviously, when I supported Chev with the academy a few years back and we beat St Helens, that was a nice moment. But I'm kind of happy with the culmination of the small moments, i.e., Watton, Allroyd, Cassell, hopefully Lloyd, Edgell, etc., all making the debuts.
That's massive.
To know that you've played a small part and to have a really good relationship with the player and his parents. Even though they're in first team, like Mikolai, etc., Harry Newman, Cam and everybody, he's just, that I think they're the wins for me. That makes it all kind of worthwhile. And the good ones kind of always remember the coach that's had an impact and the coaches that have had an impact. And it's nice that they always gravitate towards me if I'm in that environment and come over, chat and shake my hand and stuff like that. So that's... For me, that's just that little bit that makes it, gratifying. I think. The other thing is obviously in the role that I'm in now, just looking at the history of successful clubs. We're talking from a home group, across various sports. A lot of them have like anything between 65 and 70% homegrown players in their squad. So when you're looking now, I think we're at 51%. My job over the next 5 years, hopefully, is to get that to 65, 70. And then I believe even though we're doing really well, I believe we'll have a real chance of winning things and being consistent in winning it, not just like 1 year, then having 3 or 4 years off. I think there'll be a real consistency there. And, the ultimate model is obviously the Penrith Panthers, and how they do it. And again, when players leave, you kind of think, they're not going to back this up, they're not going to back that up. But ultimately, they've got players in the system that are ready-made. Next man up, next man up, and that's ultimately that's the vision that I want for Leeds in this next 5-year period, which is a challenge in itself. There's a lot of moving parts in the background that go on that people don't see, but that's my vision for it, really. To be fair, so we'll see how. Do
you feel a little bit of pressure within that then? You mentioned there about the Penrith model in the NRL. Obviously, theirs is the
phenomenal
Mount Rushmore of youth development. And do you feel like there's a bit of pressure on your shoulders then to get us back to where we want to be and the club's striving to be?
A little bit, but I think in any professional environment, you're always under pressure. You know, people say,
day-to-day life.
People say, scholarship coach, you can just you win games, you lose some. But with all due respect, if I lost more games than I won, then ultimately that would have a massive effect on recruitment. So again, you've got to get the balance right, really. To be fair, so this pressure when you're professional in sport, whether you're a player or you're in backroom staff or whatever, I think there's always that pressure there, but. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to a challenge. It's different. It's totally different for me. Even in 2 weeks dealing with stuff, and you kind of think, never had to deal with that before. But I think, Yeah, I'll find my feet. I'm
new learning
confident I
curve,
can
yeah.
do it. I'm confident I can do it. I'm confident I can do it.
Without a doubt.
We'll see.
You kind of mentioned and touched briefly on the community game when you're scouting players. What does the community game across Yorkshire, what does it kind of look like at the moment? Is it in a good place? Is it?
I don't see it as being bad, really, to be
That's
fair.
good.
I mean, when I'm going to games like 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, it's all right. You know, there's people
Brilliant.
watching. There's a good buzz about it.
Plenty
I think,
playing.
Yeah, I
Good.
think so. But I think where it falls away is when we get a little bit older. You know, the demographic of you know, you can kind of. Some people blame scholarships, some people don't. You know, as a club, Leeds Rhinos openly encourage them to see their community duties out. You know, making sure that you train, making sure that you play the games, because ultimately they don't get loads of games at scholarship, so it's important. You hear some stories about some clubs saying, "No, you can't play for your community or whatever," but that's certainly not us.
Right.
And it's how we need to do more as a sport, and this has always been a pet of mine in relation to when we release players and how we support them and what we do.
Right.
At the moment, you just put the name on a database, and obviously other clubs can have a look and say, "Oh, look, Leeds have released this kid," and 9 times out of 10, ultimately, a lot of them just go on to another club. But I just think there should be better support mechanisms there, whether it's the NRL do one for their players, and they just have and I think the RFL are speaking about modelling this, dropping them into a hub and having them doing some training sessions a couple of times a month, just to have a look, whether that would evolve into a bit of a draft where people can go, "Oh, he's a good player, I don't mind him in our system." Oh, we
I
need
think
a
that's
back
a really
rower.
good idea.
We need a back rower. So there's been elements of talk around that, and I'm hoping next year we'll see a little bit of action, because that's the worst side of the job, like every coach will say, or you know, releasing a player is a challenge, but I just don't think as a game we do enough for the young kids. So that's something we need to look at, get them back, even if it's back with the community club. We need to do more on that.
Yeah.
So moving on a little bit to like general rugby league questions, is there a piece of kit or clothing that you've kept over your time for sentimental reasons?
I've got a good friend called David Stevenson who used to play for Oldham and Hull Sharks. Remember when the World Club Challenge used to be back in the day when they used to fly to Australia, play and things like that. There were like these group games and stuff, and he got Steve Walters his North Queensland Cowboys shirt, so he swapped it. He went, "Oh, Steve, can I have your shirt?" "Yeah, here's your shirt." He went, "Do you want mine?" And Steve went, "No, I don't want yours, mate. I don't even know who you are." so he was like, "All right, thanks, mate." And I don't know what happened, but I managed to snare it off him. So I've got that in my cupboard. I've got an old Peter Lister. Peter Lister were an hero of mine played for Bramley, just like one of the best standoffs ever, but he just like chain smoker. He'd sit in the dressing room at half time before the game with a cigarette and stuff. I've got his old Bramley Morley Market shirt.
Wow.
So again, two kind of they're the only two that I've got, really, to be fair. And,
that's all you need.
That's all I need. Yeah. So a little bit of a differential in scale, but both have a meaning to me, like especially on my childhood and my youth as well. So.
Without a doubt. And we've been asking this recently on the podcast with our specials. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of rugby league? So is it 4 people?
4 people.
4 people on your own personal Mount Rushmore of the game.
Of the game.
Who would you stick
Is
in
that
there?
Players or can it be
Players,
anybody?
coaches, whoever you feel would be up there for you personally.
Mad one there. I would have Peter Lister up there because he had a massive impact on me in relation to
Pete's got to go in there.
how he played the game and the time and the easiness that everything was done just in his own time, but he had time and space even. So he was good.
Even after 40 a day.
Yeah, 40 a day. I think it was more than that, to be fair, Pete. Like mad, absolutely mad.
You've been even better.
Ellery Hanley, obviously.
Yes.
Just, you know, he was a king, wasn't he, really, to
Without
be fair.
a doubt, yeah. Stand up there.
massive Gary Larson fan. Everybody remember Gary Larson in State of Origin?
Looking at producer Chris.
North Sydney.
Gary
big
Larson.
Big blonde back rower that just used
Chris is nodding along behind the camera.
30 carries, 60 tackles every game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beast.
And I'll throw a bit of a weird one out here because it is a bit weird. Do you remember David Waite, who used to he did England, he was like a school teacher, he did all the pathways for rugby league back in the day.
Right.
I just think he got it right for the game. That year we beat the Aussies in the junior test where Ryan Bailey and everybody played.
Oh, yes.
And I just think rugby league at that time was on the right path. They had North v South, they had talent pathways. The game was in a really, really good place thanks to him. I think he was a bit of a teacher as well, wasn't he? So he was a bit ahead of his time. The game was in a good place, but obviously once he moved back home, it kind of just dropped off a little bit. I've always been fascinated with him and what he's done. He did a good job, to be fair, but he just didn't get enough time to continue. A bit of a weird one there, to be fair. I don't think you'd ever get any of them on Mount Rushmore from anybody moving forwards. But no, they had an impact on me. So,
what have you made of the Rhinos' current year for the first team this year?
God, it's been great, hasn't it?
Phenomenal.
It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been a breath of fresh air, built on the back of really, really strong defence. And again, I think initially the offence might have been a little bit a bit clunky at times, but I think now we're starting to open up a little bit. We're starting to play football. I think we offer a little bit of X factor in relation to some of the kicks. Harry's kicking and everything. Little crossfield kicks to Ash and stuff. And we're kind of linking in. I feel confident. I do feel confident about this year. I mean, everyone who speaks to me, I just think, do you know what? I think it's one of those years where, remember when like Leicester won the title, you're kind of thinking it's kind of one of 40 or one of maybe 5 or 6. Wouldn't surprise me if Wakey went to Lee and turned them over tonight. So
Chris keeps saying.
Yeah. So okay, I've dropped a couple. I know we have, but obviously we've got players coming back and Wigan, and so I just think it's kind of all at night in it now. But you draw the line under the season, I think now, and I think we're in a really good place, to be fair, to challenge and ultimately win a grand final.
I'm taking that as a grand final win. Mark just said it. We're going all the way.
Well,
exactly the same as what Danny Maguire said.
We'll clip it up.
We'll clip it up, same as Danny's. Who's been some of your favourite players to watch this year for the Rhinos, across all teams, across all Super Leagues? Who have you enjoyed watching this year?
Obviously, I like watching Lockie Miller and Bevan French. Jake Connor, just tremendously talented, and I think for whatever reason the game has missed a little bit of characters like that.
A few Mavericks,
back in the day when you used to think about your Sean Longs, your Chris Joints,
Peter
were full of Sean, Leon Price, etc. They've always been there, aren't they? And I think for whatever reason we've not really seen much. It's fallen away. So we're just like those kind of guys are really, really, really good to watch out there, to be fair.
Do you think we've become a bit systematic with how we maybe coach at the highest
across
level?
Because
everyone seems to. I don't think there was that. It wasn't as structured, whereas everyone seems to play. I know it's throwing a blanket over it, but you could say everyone seems to play the same way in how they want to play the game. Whereas you always had that difference going back a few years.
I think everyone's got an obligation to. If a player comes in with a superpower, higher step, etc. You've got to keep. You've got to build off the back of that. You can't just like dilute it. It's hard to get the balance at junior level because you've got to get them to understand the game. You've got to get them to understand the position without trying to take some of those characteristics away. It's easy for someone to put a step on when it's not needed, and then for somebody to chastise him and go, "Why has he done that? He should have done this." But it's like, he's 13, he's 14. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a challenge, but I agree. Yeah, it probably has. I think we saw that change from like 2010, didn't we, with the Wigan side? It kind of block for block for block.
Yeah, we always blame Wigan.
Three in the tackle, etc. And obviously they've gone on and had tremendous success with that. But I just think from a Rhinos perspective is we've had our greatest success went off the back of good defence, if the other team turns up, we're ready to play.
Yeah.
But we've also got a little bit of skill and a little bit of flair in there as well. And at times we might drop a few balls in that, but ultimately I think that's what we're kind of built on, just getting the balance right across the board, because ultimately we don't play football at Leeds Rhinos, or as kids don't. I think we've just got an obligation as a game for Leeds to do that, to play with that.
To have a good mixture.
With that mixture,
14-team Super League. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think that's something that's...
I think it's a challenge. I think there'll be some teams get a bit of a touch up. I think, when you remember like a few years back when they brought the Welsh clubs in, etc., it were always the same 7 or 8 players that were floating around. You'd kind of have your Tommy Lee's gone, with all due respect to him, went through 8 or 9 clubs, didn't he? Just because they'd kind of gone up, and it was the same pool of players. It'll be a challenge initially, but again, if they just need to pick and stick, don't they? I think
so. Just stick with it.
Just stick with something and just give it a little bit of time, like the reserves I spoke about earlier. Stick with it. Give it some time to develop. Give clubs opportunity to recruit players. And then we'll see how we go, to be fair. But I think initially for the first couple of years, I think there might be a couple of touch-ups.
But that's bound to happen with any new structure, isn't it? But if you say, right, this is the new structure and this is it,
that's it.
Rolling forward for 10, 20 years, we aren't going to touch this, then you give the game a chance, don't you? It's never going to happen.
But I think everybody kind of panics, don't they, when they go, 70-0, 70-0, and then Twitter has a meltdown, or X has a meltdown, and then everyone's going, we need to change it, but initially, I think it's coming for the next season or so. There's going to be a bit of that. There might be the odd surprise, etc., but there'll be few and far between, and I think, again, you've just got to give them time to build, haven't you, an opportunity to build.
Well, we've got some submitted questions. The first one is from the first ever Lot Pod special guest, Paul Cook. I think he came on with Graham Allroyd way back when, years ago. And Paul Cook, who you've mentioned a few times already, asks, ask Butsy, why do moths in his wallet have sunglasses on? What is it getting?
I don't know. I think everybody calls me tight, but I'd like to think I'm careful rather than tight. I think there's a massive difference between being careful and tight. I think that's the one. But he's always trying to get a pint out of me.
But he still hasn't succeeded. Keep trying.
No, keep trying.
And we got one from Tom Nicholson Watton. What's the best group you've ever had?
As good as hell. Yours, Tom. Do you know what? They were all good groups, but the one I was really, really keen on seeing, because we developed to an high level, was Morgan Gannon's group in that set. But obviously COVID interrupted it. We had Morgan, we had Levi, we had some fantastic talents in there. And we trained at a level that I'd kind of not seen before. Right. And I got really, really excited about it. But then obviously come January or whatever it was, 2019, it was a case of like, all right, all bets are off. So they just floated around, start with training, didn't get anything out of it. And that was probably the most frustrating one. But I just had a feeling that it'd be special, but we never
slipped
away a little bit, which is
unfortunate. So it wasn't yours, Tom.
No.
Andrew Edgell asks, would you like to take your coaching to a higher level, or do you just get satisfaction from seeing young players progress to that next level?
Both. Still got aspirations to coach, but obviously I'm on a different journey at this moment in time. I bought into that journey, so I want to see that through, but 100%. I want to do that. I've had some offers in the past, but never been. In the past I've had quite a few, really, to be fair, but never really, and offers in relation to doing what I do at Leeds with other clubs. But obviously Leeds is my club. It's my hometown club. I was stood in the south stand, used to watch, and used to stand under the floodlight in one of the corners near the west stand, and with my dad, and watching Hugh Waddell and all them play. So it takes something special, really, to kind of prize me away. And now I've got this new role, which comes a lot of responsibility. I just think that I need to give myself an opportunity to kind of work hard and see where it takes me, to be fair. So we'll see.
And
Can you read that?
Because just about. Kai Morgan's asked, what's the best thing about being a head coach?
Deep breath.
It can be thankless at times. Like I say, you can be trawling through 4 hours of video for a minute's clip for someone to watch and go, yeah, thanks, and it's like, well, but obviously the joy, seeing someone progress, seeing someone move from scholarship to academy, seeing, for example, a mum who's been struggling raising a son move from scholarship to academy and get paid, and knowing that money that he's getting is going to lighten the load in the household, things like that. And no, there's again, going back to it, there's no one thing. I think it's a culmination of things. There's a lot of thankless, tireless hours, and it can be hard at times. But there's a lot of joy come from the outcome of it all. So I'd just say
there's certainly a lot in your role, in your team's role. There's a lot in the background, loads of little wins that no one see, like that you mentioned there.
Yep.
Sounds like it's really rewarding. Nick Cassell asks, if you could put a shirt on one last time and play in the middle, who else would be your other two middles out of all the lads throughout your scholarship coaching career? So is the two where you'd think, I'd like to have played with them?
Well, obviously, no. So I'll take Mick out because he's an experienced player. I think we'll just keep the focus on this conversation around youth. I think is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's fair.
Obviously, what I'd probably do is slip into the hooker's role and probably look to. I would go Prez, Tom, and I'd go Zach Lloyd, just bringing up the back.
It's coming through.
13, and then I'd sub myself off after 30 seconds and put young Joe Diskin in the hooker's room, in the hooker's role. Yeah, so that'd be kind of, from a sitting on the fence point of view, they'd be the guys. So it's a decent set of young players, but a decent set of young men as well. That's the key.
That's important.
You'd have a good time in their company. Do you know what I mean? So as a player, so it'd be good. It'd be a good day, that.
And you mentioned Presley there, and we constantly wax lyrical about Presley, about Morgan Gannon, Max Simpson, Jack Sinfield, Ned, Alfie, and the rest of the young players in our side. Presley is 18.
Yes.
He already, has he played 6, 7, 8 Super League games? Maybe not even 10. He already looks like a Super League player. And we often discuss just how much these academy players should play at this level. What's your thoughts on that kind of balance between age and Super League? And
historically, you've seen quite a lot of young kids coming on from back in the day, and obviously, but again, I think it's down to the coach. Brad's a fantastic coach. He's got a wealth of experience, and he's in and around Prez all the time. He sees things in training, sees things where he's at. So he'll make that informed decision based on what he sees in Prez, but I suppose also based on what other players we've got available. At that particular time, we had some injuries, didn't we? Tom was out, etc. It was probably an opportune time for Prez to come in and get a shirt and just get out there and see what it's about. But even if Prez is not playing, he's still around that environment and learning. So again, I think it's about getting the balance. He's a young player in that position is not going to play a full season. But if the coach has got confidence in him, why not 6, 8, 10 games? It depends. I suppose some people say it's easier for a winger than a middle, but as a winger nowadays, you're carrying out a backfield, you're probably getting more contact sometimes than some at middles. You know what I mean? If you're coming on and you're doing 15 minutes, Riley at a backfield or Alfie, the amount of touches they get, they might be up at 11, 15 carries a game. So there's no hiding place really, to be fair. I think it just depends on the coach and the programme. You don't want to be flogging them.
Fits in,
do you know what I mean? But that goes back to your club and back to your ethos. I think, if you're having to flog a kid, then ultimately there's something wrong with your playing squad somewhere. If you're playing him week in, week out.
Do you think it's helped, we mentioned earlier about not sending players out on dual registration? Do you think that helps having them around the same environment and being in the same systems, and it makes it easier to sort of slot into the first team.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, the players are training with Brad, so they're getting the same message off Brad. They're getting it off Langers, they're getting it off Grixie, but also they're getting it off as a secondary off Chev as well. Because so the messages are not mixed. They're always the same. So the academy don't play different to the first team. So again, those consistent messages, consistent plays, consistent calls. There's real, and again, the proof's in the pudding. It's kind of the first time that this has kind of been rolled out, isn't it? That kind of role that Chev's doing. And obviously, to get to 2 grand finals, win 1, hopefully win 2.
Definitely.
Shows that the pathway's in the right place at this moment in time.
Definitely.
Is there a consistent piece of advice that you offer to young players? Is there something that you always kind of advise them to do to keep making that development through to the first team? Is there something that
I think
consistent message, maybe?
Yeah, just be honest and keep showing up. I think that's the big one. Irrespective if you're injured or you're not getting picked, don't look across and compare yourself to somebody else. Just focus on what you need to control. And work with your coach and the coaching staff to get better. But just because, don't look across and go, he's played first team or he's bigger than me. Everyone's on a different journey.
Yeah,
and if you start comparing yourself, then you'll never get anywhere.
It can have a knock-on effect.
It can be challenging. Yeah.
So we mentioned the reserve side, and obviously they beat Wyre in the grand final, 8-0. What have you made of that performance, and what did you make of the reserve season as a whole?
I think it's been a strong season because we've had some consistency with the playing group. I think back to when a few years back when me and Chev were kind of in the infancy with the reserves, we had probably had more unslip players than what we did Leeds players. But that's kind of where we were after COVID. Like I said, we've shifted the narrative on that and got a lot of real good quality players in, so they're our own, and the role that Chev takes and the role that Brad does and everybody else kind of keeps it all aligned. I think it does, but what doesn't help our cause is that the quality of the reserve competition outside of the big 4 or 5 makes it a challenge for some of them to rise to a level that we need them to.
Right, It's not as consistent
so it's
game
not,
on game.
because like I said, back in the day the narrative was you're not going to play young kids. But then there's a lot of clubs, playing 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds. I think there was the meltdown about Liam Watts playing for Castleford in reserves against Bradford against 16-year-old kids or 17-year-old kids or back in the day. But it's like, well, that's what reserves is for. So who's at fault, Castleford or the other club? So again, going back to pick and stick, I think really, to be fair, it's a matter of just sticking with it, building it up, letting it grow, and then hopefully we should get the rewards, and the players should be playing in an environment that's going to develop and grow them for Super League.
Off that. Yeah, without a doubt. And just to finish up on the Ashes, if we can, is England-Australia for the first time. Is it 20 years? 22 years? It's been a long time. First of all, how important do you feel it is that we do have the Ashes in England and Australia playing again?
Oh yeah, I think it's massive. The international games, needs to be resurrected.
Yeah,
I think back in the day when they used to do the Australia tours, I think I was like something like a 16-year-old kid sneaking into the Bramley Villager at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. Pete Jarvis there were like 200 people in there, and we were watching, when Henderson Gill doing a bit of a boogie and stuff like that. You just think about that. It's just like. There's everyone's interested in it. Everybody wants it.
It's massive,
but for whatever reason, it's not. But I think just getting behind it. I think it's massive. The ticket sales have been really good. It's been really positive. I think I seen something on social media with Sean Wayne talking to the group last night about how important it is. First time since '72 or whatever, and he might not get the opportunity. And he's right. He probably might not get the opportunity.
I thought he made a good point when he said that.
Yeah. So
come round again.
From a getting up perspective, you know that he's gonna do that job. But obviously, when you play the Australians, they're used to getting up, but then still being consistent in the 78th minute. So again, that's the challenge.
How do you think we'll get on?
I think we'll do all right. I think we'll win 1. I think we'll do 1. I think we'll win 1. I think we'll start well, which we always do.
Yeah.
Again, in around that second one, I think we'll be in it to a point where people kind of think, oh yeah, and you know what the Aussies are like. It all depends on who, mind you. There's still a massive talent for just like looking at cheese. You know, so again, I think we'll be competitive. It wouldn't surprise me if we did win it. You know, I think we've got it in his locker, but again, it's going to be a big challenge, isn't it, really, to be fair. Massive. So massive. So.
Absolutely massive. And then just lastly, there are some England players, some young England players that do go out to the NRL. Do you feel more England players, once to get to that level, should go out there to better themselves, or would you prefer them to stick in our game? How do you feel around England players heading out there?
I think it's based on the individual, really, to be fair. I mean, you know, as a young kid, a lot of the young kids do watch NRL.
Yeah.
Some young kids watch NRL more than watch Super League. So there's an attraction there. The pay and the lifestyle's an attraction as well. So sometimes you've got to take away the fact that, you know, it's not Super League's fault or it's not Super League club's fault. It's the fact that, you know, if we played American football over here and we had a load of teams and then all of a sudden, you know, Washington said, oh, look, we want this kid, I want that kid. It's more around the narrative around, bigger competition, more money, lifestyle, sunshine. As a young kid, you're going to be attracted to that, aren't you? Really, to be fair.
Top level. Yeah.
So I don't think it's I don't think it's a club's fault. I don't think it's Super League's fault. I just think it's one of them based on individual needs. You know, we still have a lot of good players that just primarily want to stay in Super League. But then we have a lot of young players that go, oh yeah, I want to.
You can't blame them, can you?
No, I want to try. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I'll blame the game either, to be fair. So
Mark, thank you very much for coming on with us. Thank you to Duncan. Thank you to Chris for producing, and thanks everybody for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time.